Oh, good work, Zoom. Morning or afternoon, if you're in America with John right about now. I'm very excited to have John Tjenos be interviewing him, but also him talking about the Neo Myalo products. And John is the founder of this company, and he's worked alongside some other amazing people to create each one of these different oils. But I would say, and I've attributed, and I'd say to all my clients that come into clinic, that my success as a clinician is because very early on in my career, I was using vagal oil with my clients that reset their whole nervous system, which enabled me to help heal their bodies and be instrumental in that process. So with that in mind, I thought it was, well, we just needed to really, is the basis of it, interview John so that you could understand his vision for the company, understand why he did this. He's been a clinician, a practitioner for how many years now, John?
I think we're a little past 35.
So with that in mind, his experience, obviously I've been to Seattle, been with John in his clinic, and I feel so privileged for what feels like memories these days. And I thought it was going to be a regular sort of thing where I could just turn up in Seattle and drop into John's clinic, but it doesn't quite look like that going forward. So I am super grateful, John, for you taking your time today to let us interview you and really just tell us about one of the phenomenal oils that I love using personally. Clients are loving it. And with the combination of cacao, which I'm like, if we can have more cacao in our lives, I'm all for it anyway. So John, over to you. Do you want to just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself to begin with?
The first thing I'd like to say is that one of the things I want for our company is to be seen as an educational company, a company that assists people in brain health and optimizing our potential through brain health. And so that's really one of the themes. And we use technologies, that's the word I like to use, like essential oils with minerals in them and different protocols in conjunction with them to be able to train the brain to be at its optimal level, whether it's for focus, whether it's to be in a parasympathetic vagal state for digestion, whether it's to reduce your anxiety, whether it's to be able to strengthen the connection between our brain and our muscular system. So we have a whole series of formulas of essential oil and mineral formulas that are designed to optimize brain function. And one that we want to discuss today is one for focus. To be able to change the brain has its own inherent capacity to change. It's very easy when we're young, as children, everything that flows in becomes built. The neurons start to connect and build these pathways for just about everything we're exposed to. But as time goes on, we have to employ specific repetition, focus, and attention to be able to make these changes, especially after the age of 25. And so all of our products and our systems necessitate a certain level of repetition and focus to be able to make the changes that we want to. So today I thought we should discuss focus and our product called Neuro Speed. And in a way to begin today, Shelley, if we can actually do the protocol for Neuro Speed. Mm-hmm. And so we have two products for focus. And we're
pause for 1 second. If anyone's listening and you've got your Neuro Speed, get it out now so you can do it with us. You won't have the cacao yet because I'm lucky enough to have it first in New Zealand. There's got to be some benefits to being the practitioner, right? But if you've got your Neuro Speed, get it out and you can at least do this part. Cool.
Great. And so there's a couple components to what we're about to do. And the first thing is in the bottle, if you see there's a white circle in the midst of these swirls, the black swirls. And we're going to be focusing on that point as we look at the bottle after we apply the oil. We're also going to be employing a specific breath pattern that actually stimulates the brain. And so let's also practice the breath pattern for a second, Shelley, okay? Mm-hmm. So it's an inhale-inspired breath, which actually arouses the brain. You would never want to do this right before you go to sleep, but before you have to focus on something, we want the brain to rev up. And so this breath goes like this. We're going to take a fast breath in, hold it for...
Can you stop for 1 second? Because people...
Yes.
And I get this all the time in clinic. There's different types of breaths for different things, right? Because clients say to me, but I've learned this way of breathing. That's neither good nor bad. You just can use breath for different reasons. Like when we want to use vagal oil, we might use a different breath with that, right?
Exactly. As a matter of fact, if the general rule would be this: use a long, slow exhalation for relaxing. And if you want to give yourself energy, it's more balanced towards the inhalation, a more powerful inhalation. So the breath we're about to do is when we need to be alert, and we need to have our brains turned on. So this breath is 2 counts in, hold it, breathe out, 1 count. 2 counts in, hold it, 1 count out. One more time, hold, and breath out. That'll be our breath. So we're going to have several, we're going to be looking at the bottle, we're going to be applying the oil, and we're going to also be spraying some cacao in our mouth. And we're going to be talking about all these different components later, but all these things essentially start the process of focus, which, believe it or not, demands alertness. And so we're going to create an alertness in the brain. Okay? So the first thing I want you to do, Shelley, is I want you to spray the cacao in between the gums and the cheek.
On both sides or just one side?
One side is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The second step is you have your bottle of Neuro Speed, and you put a minimal amount of oil, just so a little bit of sheen on your finger, and apply it to the part of the forehead right near the hairline. This is actually over our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that plans, organizes, focuses. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now we've applied the oil, we've done the cacao, and now I want you to, if you're going to be looking at your computer or reading a book, adjust the bottle to the distance that you'd be looking at your screen or a book.
Okay.
And put it at eye level, please. Eye level. I can't see the bottle in your screen, Shelley, so there we go. Okay, good. So now I want you to look at that white circle and try not to blink as you take your breath. Breathe in, hold it, short breath out. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And to maintain your stare at the circle. And as soon as you blink, then the exercise is over. Okay. So Shelley, this prepares us for the best Zoom call we could possibly have because it's enhanced our focus. And so we'll go into different things, but I do want to say one thing about focus. It's very much a use it or lose it proposition. Either you maintain your focus or you lose it. And so you can see in this world with our cell phones and with all of our different distractions that we really are challenged in terms of maintaining our focus for a specific amount of time. So focus is like a training. Now the function of the prefrontal cortex and our ability to produce 2 neurochemicals I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to become too much of a science nerd on you, but I do want you to know that the brain's producing these very specific chemicals for focus, and it'll make sense. The products will make more sense once you learn about these 2 chemicals. So the combination of the prefrontal cortex saying, I need to focus, I have an ambition, I have a motivation to focus on something, and the use of the cacao and the Neuro Speed is going to essentially help us with our capacity for focus, attention, planning, and organizing. So when we lose our ability to focus, what happens to us? We become somewhat agitated. We feel chaotic. It's very hard to get stuff done. And all those possibilities that we are presented in life become almost impossible without the strength of focus. So our goals become hard to attain. Learning becomes sabotaged, and the potential for change is reduced. So consider that this truth. I really want to emphasize this, that focus is an essential part of the human being, and it's been so since the beginning of time. Without focus, we always were in danger. Without focus, we didn't know where our food was. Throughout the history of human beings, focus was pretty much foundational for survival. So it's a part of the brain that's hardwired, our ability to focus. But that part of the brain is what supervises, creates plans, organizes, sequences things, helps us. So we all know what happens when we're not able to focus. Our close attention to details fails, right? We have trouble sustaining attention. We can be in a conversation and we're watching a person's mouth move and we really don't know what they're saying. So we have trouble listening. We become unable to finish things. We start many things, but finish very few of them. We get distracted. Our distractibility goes way up. And the truth is we get bored easily. We have to constantly bring new stimulus in to be able to even stay awake. So I want to say this, that Neo Myalo and New Mind, our company, wants to contribute something to your lives to help you maximize your potential for focus. So focus is necessary for one of the principles of the company, which is neuroplasticity. Neuro meaning brain cells, and plasticity means the ability to change. One of the things that I love telling people in my practice and everywhere I can is the brain has an inherent ability to change itself, which means we can increase our ability to focus. We can increase our ability to be relaxed, or can increase our ability to have a skill.
Sure. So a lot of people would say, and this like in society, right? But as we age, right, doesn't our brain health decline? Doesn't our focus decline? Aren't we preparing ourselves for a steady decline?
Absolutely. It's tragic. But when you see children, I mean, children without passively can learn multiple languages, right? Whatever they're exposed to, they take in and it gets imprinted in the brain. It's neuroplastic. And past the age of 25, we have to dedicate ourselves to learning, to try. A lot of times when people get to a certain age, they're just repeating what they already know. Learning becomes harder. We have to work harder. But the foundation for learning is focus. So we have to.
We apply these tools and work the exercise of focus. So work that brain muscle. Do we actually have to decline? Like that's what society tells us. But if we're actually disciplined with it and we use these tools, can we still have great focus and brain health as we age? Like, can we go against what society tells us?
Not only do we have that potential, we have the capacity, we're wired to that, but if we don't, what you see is the brain degrades very quickly. So it's not only a potential, but we also lose our ability for brain health. I mean, really, brain health, especially you'll start seeing your friends, they'll start forgetting more and more. They can't really explain something they just read the other day. You'll see this all the time in yourself and others as we age. But I think that one of the most important things, if you consider your ability to succeed also in the world, I want to say that the people who've responded to these products the most are in the corporate world, Shelley. And I know that you have a lot of corporate clients, but it does give people, but the capacity of focus gives people that competitive edge.
Totally. That's why they like it. Like I've got one big accounting firm that's an international one. And while the partner, one of the directors, he's like, oh, it's a little weird. He's like, but it works. He's like, my staff is so much more focused. If they have to apply some oil, who cares? Like they get much more, they're way more productive. And the staff notice a difference. Like they actually, and I do it, especially with my corporate presentations, when I've got to focus for a long time on my computer. I want the best. I want to maximize the time that I've got available and get the best results. So I single-handedly notice a big difference. But you're right, corporate people really respond well to Neuro Speed. And then I think it's definitely the tools that you're giving us today to work with it, like creating stronger muscles. It's one thing just to use the oil, but then to enhance the experience with the tools that you're giving us just makes it phenomenal. And also to go counter society where we're like, actually, I want to age with really great brain health. Like, I don't want it deteriorating. And if I have to be disciplined and exercise like I would my muscles, it makes sense. Your brain's your biggest muscle. So, of course.
Right. Well, just to continue with the theme of aging also, if our brain doesn't maintain the capacity for focus, we stop remembering also. And so we could have lived a very long, active life, and we may not be able to use all the wisdom we've gained. So there's a lot, but the question then becomes, how do we best access our capacity for focus? That's the question, right?
Yep.
And I think everyone who's going to be watching with us today, everyone should ask themselves, how best do I increase my capacity for focus as a way to enhance my life? It turns out that it's a very straightforward neurochemical answer.
Good, we like that.
It's inside that answer is the opportunity for us to change ourselves, and so to have this capability to concentrate, to be attentive, to focus, ability to learn new things, develop new pathways, and be able to have our lives get to the point where we want to, and be able to do this through our whole lifespan. I'm not sure why age has come up in this conversation so much, Shelley. By the way, I'd like to ask you.
Well, I hear it all the time, right? Like, I hear it with people as young as 30, and they're like, oh, I'm just aging. Like, I think it's because there's such a focus now on, and we're seeing this probably in the era that we're in, that disease and deterioration is just a part of living. Like, that we've just got to accept it. So I'm saying to people, no, you want to live your best life and don't accept the norms that society's given you, because there are tools. We can actually change this. And so I think it's more just, are we wanting to live a long life, or are we wanting to live a really healthy maximum and making the most out of our life? And I know in clinic, what I'm seeing a lot of is a lot of middle-aged people, for want of a better word, going, I had dreams for my life, and now I've COVID and the life that is looking quite different. And how do I now maximize my health? How do I make sure I've got the best health possible? How do I protect my brain? Like, people are very conscious of their brain health now. I guess because we're seeing statistics with dementia and Alzheimer's rising like never before, all these chronic conditions. And we're being told in a society at the moment, just accept it. So I don't think it's even age related, because I've got 30-year-old very successful business owners going, hey, but my brain, already they're seeing that their brain isn't what it used to be. And whether that's because of technology and phones and iPads and all the rest of it, but there's so many things coming at us that is deteriorating our brain health. So now it's counterintuitive and counter society to go, actually, I don't want to accept that at 30, at 40, at 70, 90, whatever the age is.
Beautifully said. I mean, that's so good. I mean, it's not just what you're losing. It's also the loss of your potential. Whether it's like that's where I think it's with focus, it could be for everything from building a new range of emotion, new philosophical perspectives. It can be learning a new language or a science or an art. You can be learning new motor skills with your body, like dance or yoga, or playing a musical instrument. It can primarily also be about focusing on the tasks of life and the ability to work faster, more efficient, more accurately, and maybe more creatively.
Absolutely.
So there's so much reason to be ambitious about building the strength of focus. And so with this protocol, every time you do it, you are building the neural pathway for focus. That is our ambition with using the essential oil on the forehead, the cacao, is every time you do it, you're building a pathway. And so after a while, you'll be able to sort of snap your fingers and say, I'm going into my focus mode.
Which is neuroplasticity, right? That's what we want. We're shortcutting it. The more diligent we are initially, the quicker our brain can go there to that pathway.
Absolutely. That is the joy of neuroplasticity. We've all felt it. We start learning a skill, we wake up the next day and we're better at it all of a sudden. You know, it's like, it just feels really good. So one of the things that I really wanted to help you, to help us all understand why we sometimes feel this little bit of an agitation as we have to sit down and focus on something, is there's a reason for it, a neurochemical reason for it. This isn't a discussion about stress, but it's a topic about, our topic today is about brain change and focus and learning, right? And what I just told you is that in order to change the brain into a higher performance, we need to focus. Well, the answer is that we need to pay careful attention. And there's two neurochemicals that are fired in the brain that are released from multiple sites of the brain that turn on focusing and changing. And the first gate that has to open is the one that's a stress hormone. It's a neurochemical called epinephrine. Now, epinephrine is produced in two parts of the body. One is the adrenals, which are right above the kidneys.
Sure. We call it something different in New Zealand and Australia, I remember.
Norepinephrine.
No, adrenaline.
Adrenaline is perfect. Adrenaline is what's produced in the kidneys, and above the kidneys in the adrenal glands. In the brain, it's called epinephrine or norepinephrine. And this is really important for the beginning of focus, because what we need for focus is we have to be alert. We have to be awake. We actually have to be aroused. And so one of the first ways we do it, everybody knows the experience of a deadline, and all of a sudden, boy, I can suddenly focus, right? Or you suddenly are fearful of failure, and we suddenly can focus. Or you love something so much, and you're really interested in it, and all of a sudden you can focus. All those things are releasing epinephrine. So epinephrine is released from the part of the brain right here, the brainstem is called the locus ceruleus. You don't need to remember that. But what's important is right here, these neurons, these brain cells have these axons, and they're protruding out of the neuron, and they literally spray epinephrine throughout the whole brain. They cover the brain when we need alertness, or when we say, okay, I need to do this project, or I really want to learn this. So the potential for epinephrine suddenly happens, and it creates a high state of alertness, which is the first step of focus. You can't focus, and you might notice that when you're laying down on the couch or leaning way back and you're trying to focus, it gets harder to focus. Our mind suddenly goes everywhere, right? Come back, Shelley. But the way to think about it is that the likelihood that the neurons to be really activated depends on this epinephrine release. And so when we're putting the Neuro Speed on and we're taking that breath in, this breath is stimulatory. This is turning on the brain for alertness. Okay? So now we have the cacao, and I hope we have time to talk about the cacao, because we're so
about this. The cacao. That's the part that really excited me when you've combined the two of them, because we've had Neuro Speed for a while, but the combination's phenomenal.
The combination is phenomenal, is right. And so when we spray this, I don't need any more alertness right now, trust me. But so you spray this, and all of a sudden now the cacao does several things. Just briefly, I want to talk about a little further, but the cacao has now put us into a beta brainwave. The beta brainwave is like, can you see this?
Oh yeah, we can see it on this recording that they'll be able to see later.
Okay, but the beta brain, you see the beta brainwave has, you can see it's faster. And so the cacao has put us into a faster frequency, right? The cacao sorry, Shelley, what?
Why do we want to be in a faster brain state? Because people associate that with being anxious, stressed, frazzled, like all over the place. Like we see, or I feel like societies, we've been told that being faster isn't a good thing. That means we're not going to be able to process things. We might be diagnosed with ADHD. We feel scatterbrained. So why do we want to be in this faster state when that feels so counterintuitive for a lot of people?
Right. Well, what do they give you for ADD? They give you Adderall if it's a pharmacology. That is an amphetamine. Everybody's noticed how caffeine, which speeds up the brain also. So the speed of the brain is an incredibly important part of focus. You see, this theta brainwave, see how slow that is, the theta brainwave? That's sort of the floaty, daydreamy state. But to be able to get the focus, we need to move up to alpha and beta. It needs to be faster. And so we really don't focus unless we're aroused. That's the reason why epinephrine is a stress hormone. It's actually the fight or flight hormone, but we actually need to employ that. If we were to use this in our lives, epinephrine, and let's say we were out hunting, epinephrine causes us to lock in and really focus, because all of a sudden we say, is there anything in the field that we need to focus on to keep ourselves safe? So epinephrine actually creates a very narrow vision. Now what happens if it's chronic is all of a sudden now your vision goes here, 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 here. But if you say, I want to be bringing this to this project in front of me, it really works. So that's the reason why. So the first thing is the cacao.
One more thing, can I just say this? Sorry to interrupt. So
yes.
There's a time and a place for tunnel vision, when we want to be productive, when we want to get an assignment if we're at university or like a presentation in the corporate world. But we also, parasympathetic, because we talk about this with being vagal, that's when we've got all the vision going on, right? So we want to actually switch between the two. So we want peripheral vision when we want to be in that relaxed state. And that's how we can test it ourselves at home, is how much we can see around us. But when we need to be focused, like you say, there's a time and a place for it. That's when we actually want tunnel vision. And that's when we're in that beta state of thinking, right?
Exactly. Yes. And so the theta brainwave might be more parasympathetic, maybe alpha too. Alpha is a great meditative state. But as soon as we start moving into the beta state, that's when we're locked in on things. Everybody, I mean, it's called the flow. It's called the zone, right? And I think it's one of the great feelings in life. One of the reasons why I've been able to do this for more than 35 years in my clinical practice is every session, and Shelley, I'm sure you know this feeling, is when you drop into the flow. A client first walks in and you're trying to get yourself, alert to what the story is, and then all of a sudden you drop into the flow, and all of a sudden now you spent that hour and it goes by like that, and it feels really good, and you've been able to make connections you wouldn't if you hadn't gone into that focus. So the first neuromodulator or neurochemical is epinephrine. There's a second one though we need to talk about, and this is, just bear with me. It's called acetylcholine, and it's produced more towards the front of the brain. And acetylcholine is what it feels like. Everybody knows this feeling like you've had to really force yourself to be focused, and all of a sudden now you're in the zone. That's what acetylcholine is doing, this neurotransmitter. It's like a spotlight. Like at any given moment, like right now, I'm focused on your encouragement as you nod your head with me and you listen. I can see where you're hearing me. I'm watching it really carefully. I'm not feeling the temperature in the room. I'm not feeling what's going on outside. I've decided my spotlight is to watch you and to see if we're communicating. Mm-hmm. And so my acetylcholine is made you the spotlight. It's made my progression in terms of talking about these neurotransmitters, epinephrine and acetylcholine, my spotlight. And so acetylcholine is when it drops into that state. Now, let's go back to when we look at the bottle, because this is really a great, incredible practice everybody should have. When you look at the bottle, look at that circle, you're narrowing your vision. Now, Shelley, put the bottle out to your side, a little bit to your side, and see, look straight ahead, and see, you can see the bottle there, but you really can't see what's on the bottle, right? Now slowly bring it towards the front of you. And now all of a sudden you see it very clearly. That's because there's a part of the eye called the fovea, and it's where it has the highest pixel strength. It's what's clear. The central vision is what's clear. And what's amazing is one of the real tricks, the neuroscience tricks that I want to bring to everybody today for focus is narrowing your vision. It's called convergence of vision. Your eyes actually go to a specific point, right? So you wouldn't want to put your workstation in front of a big window. You want to be able to hit, unless you're really trained to just look at your screen or your book. or whatever's in front of you. You want to be able to narrow your vision. So as we're doing this practice of looking at this circle, we're increasing our convergent vision, which then creates our cognitive focus. So the visual focus increases our cognitive focus by increasing the neurotransmitter acetylcholine.
So we would want to do these practices before we started working on something that we needed to focus on.
As soon as you blink, you've been staring at the circle, you blink, and then turn to whatever you're focusing on. If you lose your focus, come back to the bottle. You can do the cacao, you can do this. The cacao not only gives you the jump start with the epinephrine, but it also vasodilates, believe it or not, increases cerebral blood flow.
What does vasodilate mean, though?
It means the blood vessels become larger, which means more flow can get to the brain. The brain only works when it's circulating. You know, when we've been sitting for too long, we get less blood to the brain, we get little brain fog, right? Well, that's because of circulation. So by doing the cacao, it's increasing vasodilation. But the other thing about cacao that I want to say, and this is really exciting, is it has something called flavonoids in it. The flavonoids you can find in fruits and vegetables, but they aren't so bioavailable when we're trying to eat them. So cacao, when extracted, and this process was created by this extraction of taking the cacao and putting it into alcohol, has been done by one of our contributors in Neo Myalo, Chloe Lee, and she's taken this cacao with alcohol and extracted the flavonoids and other essential parts of cacao into the tincture that you're spraying in your mouth. Now, these flavonoids are especially powerful with a part of the brain called the hippocampus. This is another part of focus, is the hippocampus, which is the temporal lobe, hippocampus, right, towards the center. The hippocampus is our short-term memory. What is focus without short-term memory? Otherwise, everything we take in would seep right out of us. And so the cacao is doing three things. It increases epinephrine to give us a jump start. It increases acetylcholine, which helps us go into that cone of focus. And then it also, amazingly, increases the oxygen flow to our brain. And then finally, it feeds the hippocampus. Now, the other thing I want to say about this is if we just had some chocolate, for instance, like one spray of this is like eating half a chocolate bar. But if we just had chocolate, we still have to digest it. What you feel immediately is the sugar with the chocolate bar. With this, it's sublingual. When you put something in your mouth, the sublingual nerves immediately communicate to every organ of the body. They immediately communicate up to the brain. And the reason why is with the sublingual nerves is throughout the history of human beings, when we put something in our mouth, the body needs to immediately say whether this is good or bad, right? And so sublingual nerves are designed to give us instant messages. And so the cacao, all these features of the cacao immediately speak to the brain and to the body. Okay, so those are the different components for supporting epinephrine and acetylcholine. These two neurochemicals are important for focus and for learning. And so what I can promise you is if you get both of these neurochemicals firing, your capacity for focus, your capacity for learning, your capacity for change, learning new skills is going to be enhanced. But it only can happen with the stimulation of these two neurotransmitters.
Wow, this is phenomenal. This is a game changer. And also, John, though, being the practitioner that you are, you've got your clients doing, right?
Right. Yes, we've been working on this.
A brief wrap-up summary, because we can do part 2 of the interview, obviously, because this is like, if people digest this to begin with, there's a lot of gold in here. We've given you the tools, the techniques, and the why of why you want to do this and what you can start implementing straight away to improve your focus and make sure that you're going against the trend of just living your life rather than actually maximizing your health, maximizing your brain strength, maximizing your focus.
Great. Well, I hope everybody can, we're going to be posting all the information about the cacao. We're so completely proud of this product, and we're so excited about it. And the way we source the cacao is really, it's maybe one of the most powerful forms of cacao on earth. And the process has been really carefully prepared for you, and the possibilities of it with the Neuro Speed to build this neuroplasticity, this wiring for focus is available.
Totally, and I feel like we haven't even really dived into it because we both love teaching and educating. This was like just the surface level to get people thinking about it and inspired to try something different today, to try implementing, increasing their focus and building this muscle. So before we finish, John, will you take us through the technique again one more time with everybody?
Okay, great. So the first thing, I have a client who's about to walk in, and so to shift my attention from being with you to this client, I need to readjust my focus. So I'm going to spray some of the cacao between my cheek and my gums. It's important to taste it. It's also important to smell it. Smelling it actually really potentiates it. Right? It takes us out of that theta brainwave daydreaming into an alert phase. Okay, next we're going to apply Neuro Speed over our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that says the context of our life right now is focus on this endeavor. We're going to then bring the bottle up to the distance of whatever we want to focus on, the approximately same distance, and we're going to be looking into this white circle you'll see in the bottle, and you're going to keep looking at it until you blink. But in the meantime, you're also going to be taking our inhalation breath, inhalation inspired breath. So breathe in, pause for a second, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. I also want to say the longer you can go without blinking, this is a muscle to work on. Blinking will actually distract your focus. So the longer you can go without blinking, the more you're locked in.
Well, John, we're all focused for our Saturday mornings. I don't know what I'm going to achieve this Saturday. Your clients are lucky to have you Friday afternoon. No dips for you on Friday afternoon. And we're all going to be buzzing. We're going to have the most productive Saturdays we've ever had. Last week we were floating after Chloe's grounding class with Forest Bathing. And this week we're going to be like, whoo, all
Very purposeful
achievements.
Well, I wish I had this when I used to teach my classes. I would give it to all the students.
Yeah, I know. We might have paid more attention during class, right?
No, I don't think I lost anybody's attention, did I?
Yeah, not at all. You didn't. Truly, you didn't. We might have just, our focus might have deteriorated throughout the day. So much to learn. And John, I'm incredibly grateful, as everyone listening and our clients are grateful for this teaching and just the tools that you've given us today. So a heartfelt big thanks to you. And I really hope we can do it again so that clients can have questions, ask us things, and then we can go into it even deeper, because I really just feel like we touched the surface on all of this. But thank you so much for creating these amazing life-changing oils so that we can take control of our health and change our destinies and change our future of where we want our health to be.
Yeah. We have that agency, that power.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, John.
Bye, Shelley. Thank you.
Oh, you've got to turn it off. Stop recording.